So, you've got big dreams. You want to be successful. You want freedom. You want that life, the one you've imagined 1,000 times. But there's a problem. You're lazy, or at least that's what you tell yourself, because you know what you should be doing. You've read the books, watched the videos, and made the lists, and yet you don't do it. Instead, you scroll, you stall, you wait, and then comes the guilt. Not because someone else said so, but because deep down, you know you're capable of more, and that guilt, it builds, quietly, daily, until it turns into something worse, acceptance. You stop trying, you numb out, you call it normal, and then January rolls around, new year, same goals. You start off strong, full of motivation, and maybe a little delusion. But then it hits you again. Procrastination, creeping in like that one relative who always shows up uninvited. One skipped task becomes two. Two become a week. And suddenly, you've labeled yourself, I'm just lazy. But here's the truth. You're not lazy. You're stuck in a cycle. And that cycle has a name, inertia. In physics, inertia is the tendency for objects at rest to stay at rest, and objects in motion to stay in motion. Unless acted upon by an external force, you are that object, your goal, the force. But right now, you're sitting still and starting. That's the hardest part. Why? Because we make it too big in our heads. We write a 5,000-word essay into a mental mountain. We psych ourselves out before we even begin. So instead, we reach for the quick fix. Scrolling, snacks, YouTube rabbit holes, anything to avoid that first push. But here's the good news. You don't need a massive push. You just need a tiny one. Tell yourself, I'll write 50 words. I'll clean for 2 minutes. I'll do 1 push-up. Why? Because once you start, momentum takes over. The first 2 minutes feel like pushing a boulder uphill, but once you're over the hump, it's downhill from there. Objects in motion stay in motion. This is why the 2-minute rule works so well. Commit to just 2 minutes. Start small. And let momentum do the rest. 9 times out of 10, you won't stop. Not because you forced yourself, but because you no longer have to. This principle applies to everything. Writing that book, starting that business, going to the gym, fixing that relationship. You don't need to see the whole plan. As Martin Luther King Jr. said, you don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. So if you're stuck, don't wait for motivation. Create motion. You're not lazy. You're just waiting to move. Now go and push.